Please close your eyes. Inhale and exhale slowly and deeply. Relax your body. Calm your mind and calm your emotions. Mentally say, I am not the body, I am not the emotions, and I am not the thoughts. I am the soul. I am that I am. Visualize your whole body, all your thoughts and emotions disintegrate and disappear. And what remains is just brilliant white light. Inhale slowly and deeply. Exhale slowly and deeply. Inhale and exhale. Now please bring your awareness higher to your crown chakra and mentally say to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother, to our spiritual teacher, to Grandmaster Shuakok Sui, to Lord Mahaguruji Mailing and all the great ones, all the holy gurus, holy masters, saints, archangels, holy angels, and spiritual helpers. Thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection, inner healing and physical healing, good health, and happiness. Thank you for blessing us with spirituality and illumination, abundance, and prosperity. Thank you in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly, exhale slowly. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. Atma Namaste. So let's begin the session. Okay, so we already finished chapter 1 in the last session. So chapter 2 will have some explanation about the chakras. So we will not go deep in detail because in pranic healing we believe in 11 major chakras, and some of the names that are mentioned in the chakras explained in the book might be different, but we will read it so that if you want to explore it further yourself, you can do it. Okay, so the first topic to discuss is centers and triangles of force. So all these chakras, 3 by 3, they can connect to each other or relate to each other and create a triangle of force. There are, as you well know, 5 non-sacred planets and 7 which are regarded as sacred. So we discussed this already in the last 2 sessions. These 12 planetary lives are closely related to the 7 centers. By 7 centers, the book means 7 chakras. The 5 centers up the spine are related to the 5 non-sacred planets, but in unevolved or average man, are focused almost entirely upon the astral plane and in the astral body. So by up to spine, it means up to solar plexus chakra. It should be noted that number 1, 2 of the non-sacred planets, the Earth itself and the Moon, are connected with 2 centers which in the highly evolved man are not of dominating importance. One is the spleen, receiving pranic emanations from the planet on which we live and concerned with the etheric and physical bodies and their physical relation. So spleen basically connected with the earth on the planet that we live. And B, a center in the chest related to the thymus gland. This center becomes inactive in the advanced man, but has a connection with the vagus nerve prior to the awakening of the heart center. Okay, so this basically is connected. In pranic healing, we say that the Heart chakra is located in the center of the chest and controls the thymus gland. So it's possible. So in the book it says the moon is connected with the heart center. Now, two of the other non-sacred planets, Mars and Pluto, function in connection with the sacral center or sex chakra, which is Mars, and the solar plexus, Pluto. This latter planet becomes active in the life of the man who is becoming alive in the higher sense. His lower nature passes into the smoke and darkness of Pluto, who governs the lesser burning ground, in order that the man may live in truth in the higher land of light. Okay, in the Lord's Prayer, the verse connected with the solar plexus is "Thy will be done." So basically, when the person is more developed, the lower will get aligned to the higher will. So the will of the higher soul will prevail. And three, the sun, standing here for Vulcan, which is a sacred planet. So we discussed last time that the sun and the moon often veil a planet. So here, that's why it says standing here for Vulcan, which is a sacred planet, governs the center in the front of the throat, which is related to the parathyroid and not to the thyroid gland, which is related to the throat center. This center in the front of the throat falls into disuse as the creative period of throat activity begins. It acts as a mediator between the higher and the lower creative organs, between the sacral and the throat centers, and leads eventually to that creative activity which is consciously that of the functioning soul. Okay, so that part about the chakras is for us to study further. We will now study the crosses and the signs. We will follow man from sign to sign as he, in travail and pain, forges the equipment and develops painfully the mechanism which will enable him to arrive at a major moment of crisis in his cyclic life, wherein he will begin to free himself from the path of the great illusion, along which he has traveled for eons from Aries to Taurus via Pisces. So means moving in the clockwise direction. And reversing himself will begin to travel the path of light from Aries to Pisces via Taurus. So we discussed that when a man is already developed to a certain degree from the mutable cross, moves on to the fixed cross, and then the rotation will become counterclockwise from Aries to Taurus and eventually to Pisces, which is the proper direction of movement. That's why the first one is called illusion. This changing experience is expressed for us most beautifully in the sixth section of the old commentary. The cross of many changes, this refers to the mutable cross, continues with its whirling, carrying crucified thereon the form of a man, in whom is found the seed of illusion, of all illusion. But from the cross whereon he has been slain, man climbs down and feels his way with pain and many tears unto another cross, a cross of blinding light, of fiery pain, of bitter woe, and yet a cross of liberation. It is a stationary cross fixed in the heavens and guarded by the angel. So it's like um, lot of mysteries and symbolism is here. So cross of many changes is a mutable cross, and it says is illusion because it moves in a clockwise direction from Aries to Pisces instead of Aries to Taurus. And once the person reaches to a certain degree of development, the direction changes and becomes counterclockwise, this time from Aries to Taurus, which should be the correct movement. And this is a really hard cross. Lots of tears and pain and learning but it's a cross of liberation, because through those hardship and challenges we learn, we grow, and then we finally get liberated. And it says fixed in heaven. This cross is called the fixed cross. So here are two images for you to see. The mutable or common cross, direction of movement is clockwise. We have Pisces, Sagittarius, Virgo, and Gemini in this cross, creating these four, creating a cross. So as we are moving clockwise, this cross is to develop intelligence. So three things we need to develop: intelligence or light, love, and power. So we start with developing the intelligence aspect of the soul. So that's why this is called, this cross leads to learning of some aspects of intelligence. So from Pisces, from negative, impressionability to the power to serve. And then we move to Sagittarius, from gluttony to intelligent and inspired vision. Then we move to Virgo, from domination by the material life to intelligent awareness of the divine within. Then we move to Gemini, from instability to duality and intelligent recognition of something higher. So once we finish and learn all this and evolve, we move to the fixed cross, and then the direction changes to counterclockwise. Here we have four signs also: Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. So in Taurus, from desire to aspiration, leads to the unfolding of love via professions, business, and the arts. So when we are in the fixed cross, we are trying to develop the love aspect of the soul. Then we move to Leo, identification from the lower self to the soul, stimulation of creative ideas and projects. Then we move to Scorpio, brings triumph over glamour, illusion, and a growing love for humanity. And finally, Aquarius, from personal desire to world service, motivated by love. So here the love for self becomes love for humanity, love for everyone. Behind the cross another cross appears, but that he may not reach, the angel guards the way, until the bull has rent and torn the man, and then the light shines forth, until the serpent dread has wrestled with the man and brought him to his knees, and then the lifting up into the light, until the lion has been tamed, the secret of the Sphinx revealed, and then the revelation of the inner light, until the man has lifted up his water pot and joined the ranks of those who are the water bearers. And then the flowing of the stream of life will fill his water pot and drain the rancid pool and cleanse its source, and thus reveal the hidden way which leads unto the innermost light, hid by the final cross. Then from the cross of man the initiate finds his way, passes the angel and leaves behind the inner torn veil, mounts the major cross and passes into day, the final day. The will for him stands still, the sun and stars for him fade out, a great light is seen. Okay, so this is referring to moving from the fixed cross to the cardinal cross. Okay, now if you have done a workshop by Master Choa called Spiritual Business Management, there he talks about the secret of the Sphinx, which is a perfected man. So you see why Sphinx represents the bull, the lion, the eagle, and the man. The bull refers to Taurus, lion refers to Leo, eagle refers to Scorpio, and man refers to Aquarius. So once we conquer these, once we learn whatever is connected with these signs and we evolve, we become perfect, we become a developed person, then we move on, or when we become awakened, Then we move on to the cardinal cross, which is the cross of the initiates. So this fixed cross is where most awakened humanity is at. The first three initiations take place on this cross. So once we finish the three initiations, then we move on to the cardinal cross. So here we have 4 signs also: Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn. From sublimation of the personal will to the will of God. In Cancer, from identification with the masses to the will to serve the masses. Libra, from unbalanced fiery passion to the will to serve the laws of God. And Capricorn, from personal ambition to working with the power of love. And in this cross, we are developing the will aspect of the soul. So you see, everything refers to will, the will to serve. Okay, so we have four we have 4 zodiacal signs in every cross: cardinal cross, fixed cross, mutable cross, also known as the common cross. So we start from here. As we grow, we move on to the fixed, and after the 3 initiations, when we are a developed person, we move into cardinal. So now the book says, I would ask you to remember that though I shall trace the progress of the man from sign to sign around the zodiacal way, yet there is not necessarily this ordered sequence of travel or the smooth passage from sign to sign as I may portray it. So you see the book says from Aries, we go to Pisces, and then we go like that. Or when we change the cross, then from Aries we go to Taurus until Pisces, but we don't move very orderly like that. Okay, so it doesn't mean in one incarnation we are, let's say, I don't know, Aries, and next incarnation we are Pisces, and next incarnation it's not like that. So that's what the book says. It's not necessarily this orderly sequence. All souls come into incarnation in the sign Cancer. By this I mean that the very first human incarnation was always taken in this sign, which has been recognized down the ages as the doorway into life of those who must know death. Okay, so we start our incarnations as a human in the sign of Cancer based on the book. Just as the constellation Capricorn is ever regarded as another door that is called esoterically the doorway into life of those who know not death. As the ages slip away, the man passes into and out of all the signs, and particular sign being determined by the nature of the personality ray, which itself changes, as you know, from life to life. In those signs, he learns the needed lessons, broadens his horizon, integrates his personality, begins to sense the conditioning soul, and thus discovers his essential duality. When he is upon the path of discipleship, and here I include the path of initiation, means fixed cross and cardinal cross, occult rumors say that he then becomes conditioned by the tireless watcher, the soul, and is subjected during the final stages of the path to exactly 12 incarnations, passing one in each of the 12 signs. In them, he has to prove himself, attaining great moments of crisis in each of the constellation of the fixed cross in particular. Okay, so basically the book says initially when we are just starting the path, and especially when we are in the mutable cross, it doesn't mean that we go from sign to sign. Okay, the which sign we are there is connected with the ray of the personality or the incarnated soul and everything, and the lessons we need to learn and so on. Okay, once we go to fixed cross, based on the book, based on rumors, occult rumors, we have to finish 12 incarnations, one in each sign, and we need to pass the tests. We need to learn whatever we need to learn, finish the test, like it's like an examination. and move on until we finish that cross, especially the fixed cross. So basically it's like we have already learned so much through all these incarnations and lives and everything, and now it's like the final training ground, the final test. We need to show what we have learned. That's why the fixed cross is hard, because it's the examination time. This is the test time. So whoever is in the fixed cross may really suffer sometimes, and there may be a lot of challenges in the life, because we need to show that we have learned the lesson so we can move on. We finish these 12 and then we move on to the fixed cross. Okay, someone in the chat mentioned 12 incarnation like the labors of Hercules. Yeah, thank you. From point to point, stage to stage, and finally cross to cross, he fights for his spiritual life in all the 12 houses and all the 12 constellations, subjected to countless combinations of forces and energies, ray, planetary, zodiacal, and cosmic, until he is made anew, becomes the new man, is sensitive to the entire range of spiritual vibrations in our solar system, and has achieved that detachment which will enable him to escape from the wheel of rebirth. He has accomplished this by mounting the three crosses: the cross of the personality or the changing form, which is also called the mutable cross or the common cross, the cross of the disciple or the eternal soul or the higher soul. This is the fixed cross, and the cross of the spirit. This is the cardinal cross. This really means that he has passed through three momentous crises in his life cycle. So just the summary of the three: the crisis of incarnation, the mutable connected to the mutable cross, the mounting of the wheel, personality and form life, the cycle of rebirth in form, experience manifestation of manhood. This is manifestation of manhood. Number two is the crisis of reorientation. So when we move from the mutable cross to the fixed cross, the movement changes to counterclockwise. The changing of the second cross, the life of the soul, preparation for the second birth, the consciousness, manifestation of Christhood. Last one, the crisis of initiation, the cardinal cross, the transfiguration, the life of the spirit, and manifestation of divinity. So here we are trying to overcome the incarnate, we are trying to learn how to work as an incarnated soul, not the bodies. Here we are learning how to work as higher soul, and here we become God realized. So soul realized, God realized. In our study of the interlocking system of energies, insofar as they affect and condition a human being, the theme of the three crosses is of profound and practical interest, especially as they provide those points of crisis wherein a man steps off the ordinary path of evolution and threads the path of discipleship, or after the third initiation mounts the third cross. These work out into human expression via the lords of the 12 signs and the 12 planetary rulers. These 12 basic energies emanate from the 7 stars of the Great Bear. 2 of them come from Sirius and 3 from the Pleiades. Always, however, the emphasis must be laid upon the rays of energy and quality as they pour through the zodiacal constellations and the planets. So after finishing this talk about the crosses, we are going to study each of the zodiacal sign and their exoteric ruler and their esoteric ruler one by one. So the new astrology, therefore, is necessarily based upon an understanding of the rays. 7 stars of the Great Bear are the originating sources of the 7 rays of our solar system. The 7 rishis, as they are called, of the Great Bear, express themselves through the medium of the 7 planetary logoi, who are their representative and to whom they stand in the relation of prototype. The seven planetary spirits manifest through the medium of the seven sacred planets. Each of these seven rays coming from the Great Bear are transmitted into our solar system through the medium of three constellations and the ruling planets. So here is a chart, a table showing the sacred planets and which rays they are connected with. So Vulcan is connected with first ray, Jupiter, second ray, Saturn, third ray, Mercury, fourth ray, Venus, 5, Neptune, 6, and Uranus, 7. And the non-sacred planets are also connected with 5 of them. Pluto is first ray, Sun is second, Earth is third, Moon is fourth, and Mars is sixth. Sun and Moon usually veil another planets. We will talk about that later. The following tabulation makes this clear but must be interpreted only in terms of the present turn of the great zodiacal wheel, which is 25,000 years. Okay, so this tabulation is connected with rays and constellations. So 7 rays connected with first ray, which is will or power. We have Aries and the Orthodox planet, ruling planet Mars. Esoteric ruling planet Mercury. We will talk about all of this in detail as we discuss about each sign. Second one connected with will is Leo. Third one Capricorn. Then we have second ray love wisdom. Connected with it is Gemini, Virgo, and Pisces. Active intelligence, we have Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. Harmony through conflict, we have Taurus, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. Concrete science or concrete intelligence, Leo, Sagittarius, Aquarius. And ray 6, idealism or devotion, we have Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces. And ceremonial magic, ray 7, Aries, Cancer, Capricorn. So you see some of them are connected with 2 rays. Okay, let's move on. So it will be obvious to you how much correlating work and how much readjustment of ideas will be needed as the new astrology is worked out into practical usefulness and eventually substituted for that now holding sway. This new astrology really embodies 5 sciences. So it means to really do astrology, work on astrology in an esoteric way, we need to know these 5 sciences, or the esoteric astrology embody these 5 sciences. One, the science of the rays. So knowing this knowledge is important to understand the esoteric astrology. The science of esoteric interpretation, which is carried out through the science of triangles. We will talk about this towards the end of the book again. The science of centers or chakras. The science of destiny. Now, the book says the latter science, which is the science of destiny, will be based upon the 4 previous ones and will constitute an interpretation of the future, which will be founded on a correct understanding of the race, personal and egoic, and of the influence of the triangles, zodiacal, planetary, racial, and human. These latter triangles are arrived at by a study of the individual human centers. When all this has been worked out in the new style of horoscope, which will be later developed, then the science of destiny will be applied and the future indications discovered. Of this, the personal progressed horoscope is the embryonic seed. It would repay the student to contemplate the interesting succession of triangles that are to be found and the way in which they must be linked by the progression of the fire before that fire can perfectly vivify them and thence pass on to other transmutations. Okay, so first we have the pranic triangle, which is number 1, the shoulder center, the center near the diaphragm, and the spleen. 2, man control from the astral plane, the base of the spine, the solar plexus, and the heart. 3, man control from the mental plane, the base of the spine, the heart, and the throat. 4, man partially controlled by the ego. We have here advanced man. So will be the heart, the throat, the head. Example, the four lesser centers and their synthesis, the ajna center. 5, the spiritual man to the third initiation, the heart, the throat, the 7 head centers. Spiritual man to the fifth initiation, the heart, the 7 head centers, the 2 many petal lotuses. Okay, so here it says which 3 human centers or chakras are connected to create a triangle in which stage of evolution of the person. So it means these 3 centers are more active. It doesn't mean the other centers are not activated. It means these are more activated or more at work, something like that. All these different periods show different triangular radiations. We must not infer from this that when the fire is centered in one triangle, it is not demonstrating in others. So that is the thing it's saying. So it doesn't mean that when one center, one triangular center is activated, the rest are not. Once the fire has free passage along any triangle, it flames continuously, but always there is one triangle more radiant and luminous than the others. And it is from these glowing triangles of light issuing from wheels and vortices of fire that the clairvoyant and the teachers of the race can appraise a man's position in the scheme of things and judge of his attainment. So basically, a very good clairvoyant by looking at a person to see which chakras are more activated or in like more brilliantly looking, something like that, more luminous, they know which stage the person is. At the culmination of life experience and when man has reached his goal, each triangle is a radiant path of fire and each center a wheel of living fiery force rotating at terrific speed. The center at this stage not only rotates in a specific direction but literally turns upon itself, forming a living, flaming, iridescent globe of pure fire, and holding within it a certain geometrical shape, yet vibrating so rapidly that the eye can scarcely follow it. So if you remember when we do twin hearts meditation, like we say during the meditation when the crown chakra is activated and it's rotating very fast, it creates a golden flame on top of the head. So imagine those centers which are activated and brilliantly luminous and rotate very fast. So it creates a certain geometrical shape. Above all, at the top of the head will be seen a fiery display that seems to put all the other centers into insignificance. From the heart of this many-petaled lotus issues a flame of fire with the basic hue of a man's ray. This flame mounts upward and seems to attract downward a sheet of electric light, which is the downflow from the spirit on the highest plane. So all of this makes sense a lot because we have the knowledge of pranic healing, achieving oneness or Hatha yoga. So the electric light, we already learned it in advanced pranic healing. That lotus, many petal lotus, lotus above the head could refer to the 12th chakra. So all of this is explained brilliantly by Grandmaster Chakosu in Achieving Oneness already. This marks the blending of the fires and the deliverance of man from the trammels of matter. This was discussed in a treatise on cosmic fire. So at present, charts are set up on the basis of the personality condition or of the personality ray. If the astrologer is fortunate enough to know or to guess it accurately. If, however, the subject is an advanced person, then the chart will be frequently wrong, as the planets which govern in the case of ordinary or undeveloped man have ceased to influence the spiritual man and the disciple. Average man is primarily conditioned in the events of his physical plane life by the position of the planets in the 12 houses, and they are, in their turn, conditioned by certain karmic influences, which the advanced man has overcome or is overcoming. The horoscope will be cast eventually on the basis of the soul ray, And then the zodiacal sign, which govern the activities and the influences and the influence of the present group of planetary rulers will be considerably lessened. New planetary potencies will control and take precedence of the old ones, thus putting the man in touch with different forces. Okay, so we discussed this already in the last session, that when we are reading a chart of a person who is not in the spiritual path and the chart of a disciple or someone who is very um, is pursuing to become a disciple, or it's like a very um, committed spiritual practitioner, then will be different. These will be different because the person who is not in the spiritual path is easier to read the chart because they are affected by certain karmic influences, by the houses and the planets in the houses. So everything almost happen as in the chart. But when a person starts a spiritual path and follows that spiritual path diligently, then they are trying to overcome, or if they are very advanced, they may have already overcome those karmic influences, something like that. A very, I will share one personal experience. Maybe this will help to understand. Many years ago, I already started studying astrology. This is before I become even a pranic healer. And this astrology was Indian type, like Vedic type, um, not Western type. So I remember, based on the chart, I could really see what are the major events that happened in my life in the past. It could actually really show in the chart, and I could see some of the problems or some of the issues that may happen in the future. Okay, so I remember one of them was really difficult for me to accept. So I tried, and that time I already learned pranic healing. So I tried the techniques learned in pranic healing in achieving oneness, to do forgiveness with this person, to bless, and to do tithing, to do service, all of this in relation to the problem that I foreseen is about to happen. And that issue happened, but it was not as strong as it's supposed to happen. So it's like, for example, an earthquake magnitude 7 is planned to happen. If you do certain practices, as Grandmaster already suggested to us, like service, tithing, learning the lesson, blessing, all of this, it may still happen, but maybe one magnitude that is not really, you know, difficult to handle anymore. Because when that problem happened, I knew, I was very conscious and aware that this is connected with what I saw in the chart, because the timing was right. The, you know, the category, that what's supposed to happen, everything was very similar to what's supposed to happen, but in a much less degree that I didn't really get bothered by it. Maybe I just got bothered very minimum, not very difficult to handle, something like that. So basically, when we are reading for a person who is pursuing a spiritual path and following teachings, spiritual teachings, some of the things which appear in the chart may not happen because the person may have already neutralized it, something like that. Okay, so finally the time will come when he will be sensitive to the whole range of vibrations. Charts will then be set up, which will be called charts of the crosses, and not simply indications of planetary influences in the 12 houses. I question whether there is any living astrologer capable of doing this as yet. These are the kind of charts by which the masters gauge their disciples, and they are most interesting. These charts of the crosses are the ones that are prepared prior to the third initiation, at which time the man begins his approach to the cardinal cross of the heavens. I would here remind you, though it is a piece of useful information, that the fifth major initiation of our planet is the first cosmic initiation, just as the third initiation is the first systemic. The two first initiations are planetary in their implication. So this is just a knowledge for you. So we finished discussion about the three crosses. Now we will deal with, we are going to deal with each of these signs in details. So I am now going to outline to you the spiritual effect of the passage of the soul around the wheel of experience. We will attempt to consider, in the case of each constellation, the general effect upon a soul undergoing the experience from the orthodox angle as he travels from Aries to Taurus via Pisces, and then as the disciple coming under other influences travels from Aries to Pisces via Taurus. Thus, the usual process is reversed and the man reorients himself and faces the east, as it is esoterically called. He expresses then, in the highest possible manner, the qualities of his soul ray, as in the first case he expressed the quality of the personality ray. It is not possible for me to be more specific. I seek only to give certain spiritual implications and hints and to convey a general idea of the effect of the great illusion upon resultant conditions, and secondly, the result of the great tests which every disciple eventually undergoes as he reverses the wheel of life. Okay, so it just says basically that we are going to study in general what is connected with each of these zodiacal signs and the ruling planets, esoterically and exoterically. So now if you have your charts, if you remember, we said three things are important. One is the moon sign and the sun sign and the ascendant. Moon is connected with the past. So most of the time for children, still they are in their moon. So how they perform is connected with the moon sign. And then sun sign is the current, and um, ascendant is the future or the goal or the purpose. So based on what we discussed already previously, we will go through each of these signs one by one, and then you try to see how it's connected with your life and how it can help you learn the lessons connected with those and move on. Okay, so first we start with Aries, the ram. I come forth, and from the plane of mind I rule, achieving sufficient initial impulse to act. So this is just a basic overview. Its rays are ray 1, ray 7. Orthodox ruler is Mars. Esoteric ruler is Mercury. Hierarchical ruler is Uranus, which we will read about this, but we will not really go in detail. We will mostly talk about the Mars and Mercury. So strictly speaking, what I have to say now concerns the pure first ray type, because Aries is the zodiacal sign through which the first ray of will or power reaches our planetary life. So as you saw before and we discussed, Aries is the first, connected with first ray. Such pure types are rare indeed, and at this period of evolution unknown. Okay, so at this point that we are, first ray people are very minimum. Most people are governed by their personality ray, and as the present first ray types are expressing themselves through personalities, which are on all the rays, I would simply ask you to consider what I have to say from the angle of character effects, of problems presented, and of quality unfolded. It is impossible to be more explicit until such time as the science of the rays has been further developed. The astrologer must ascertain the ray type before he will be able to cast the adequate horoscope of the soul. My remarks are therefore general and not specific, and are universal and not particular. I impose no doctrine. I indicate phases of a speculation which might prove illuminating and fruitful. So basically, as we discussed, we are going to read this in a more general term, not connected with each specific person. So Aries is one of the constellations of the cardinal cross of the heavens. This is the cross of God, the Father, and therefore of the incarnating monad. Monad means the divine spark in pranic healing language. It is the expression of will or power as it expresses itself through the great creative process. When the initiate, as we shall later see, transfers himself onto the cardinal cross from which he descended when coming into incarnation and mounted in its place, the common or mutable cross has no longer identifies himself with form or even with soul, but with the will of the divinity and with the eternal plan and purpose. It becomes his plan and purpose. He knows no other in a sense which is unknown even to an initiate of the third degree. He then enters into the council chamber of God. He becomes a part of the conclave at Shambhala. He functions no longer simply as a member of the hierarchy upon the mental plane. He can now function through all the three world centers, humanity, the hierarchy, and Shambhala. So it means if a person passes to the cardinal cross, his will becomes God's will. So Aries is connected with the cardinal cross. Cardinal cross is connected with drive, with action, birthing, beginning, outgoing, is independent, seek control over their environment, driven by a sense of purpose, movers and shakers. Will is very strong in this one. Now Aries in particular is connected with cardinal cross as well as fire elements. So that's why they're pioneering, independent, assertive, impatient, impulsive, lacking in moderation, domineering, quick-tempered. So all of this is connected with Aries. Now fire element is excitable, enthusiastic, confident, possible, lack self-control, self-centered and impersonal, impatient, may rush into things, can come across as willful and insensitivity to others. So you see, will is very strong. If you remember, even the qualities of the first ray, very similar. They are very impatient, very courageous. They could be, they say like if they are leaders, they say my way or highway. So sometimes impulsive, sometimes lack of control. Aries initiates the cycle of manifestation. All souls as individual entities come into human incarnation for the first time in the sign of Cancer, emerging as mental entities in the sign Aries, as emotional desire entities in the sign Taurus, and as vital entities in the sign Gemini, taking then physical form in Cancer. So it means initially it's like the process of involution from mental plane to astral plane to physical plane in the sign Cancer. But that initiation starts in Aries. This is an involutionary subjective cycle. Thus, they emerge into the ocean of physical plane existence, into the world of matter. Yet the first impulse is awakened in Aries. For Aries is the place where the initial idea of institute activity takes form. It is the birthplace of ideas, and a true idea is in reality a spiritual impulse taking form, subjective and objective. So it's like initiating ideas. And that whole idea of incarnation becoming reality, taking a form, starts in Aries. There originates the response of the soul to the highest aspect or quality of deity because there appears the will to incarnate. So again, first ray, will to incarnate. First ray is connected with will. The first ray aspect of the monad responding to the first aspect of deity evokes response from the first ray aspect of the soul, and the first step towards incarnation is taken on that plane in the system, which is the mental plane. Aries awakens the will to reach the lowest and their control, to know the uttermost and thus to face all experience. Thus runs an ancient statement. So the keynotes of the sign Aries are 4 in number, all conveying the same idea. They can be expressed in the following 4 injunctions, which are given symbolically to the incarnating soul. The keynotes are quite important. By understanding the keynote, we will understand what is the lesson to learn, what is the purpose of each zodiacal sign. So 1, express the will to be and do. 2, unfold the power to manifest. 3, enter into battle for the Lord. And 4, arrive at unity through effort. So creation, being, activity, strife, synthesis, these are the nature of the Lord of the first constellation and enable him to influence our planet to these results. And thus the great cycle of struggle towards expression starts, and the foundational words of the secret doctrine, with which you are also familiar, expresses the goal and the purpose of the first sign of the cardinal cross. So it says, matter is the vehicle for the manifestation of soul on this plane of existence. And soul is the vehicle on a higher plane for the manifestation of spirit. And these three are a trinity synthesized by life which pervades them all. What appears in Aries as a spiritual energy enters into the soul stage in Cancer. So we discussed this already. In Aries, the initial idea or will to incarnate gets initiated, and then we go down into astral plane and finally incarnate as a form in Cancer, in which sign the soul incarnates for the first time in form, reaches a point of equilibrium in Libra, in which sign soul and personality achieve a balance of cooperation. And in Capricorn, the will nature arrives at fulfillment and a vision goal is reached. So if you remember earlier, we said 4 lower zodiacal signs are more connected with I or self. The six lower ones, and the 6 higher ones are more connected with others. So basically in Libra, the soul and personality achieve a balance. So we move on from selfishness to also starting to think about others. And in Capricorn, the will nature arrives at fulfillment and a vision goal is reached. In Capricorn, the man reaches either the height of personal ambition or he becomes the initiate, attaining his spiritual objective. So the difference between these two goals depend upon the mode of progression around the wheel of life. It should be remembered, generalizing again and speaking symbolically, that the crosses also turn, being the spokes of the great wheel. The undeveloped man goes from Aries to Capricorn and to Libra and Cancer, whilst the development reverses the process. So we discussed about this already. Undeveloped man moves in a clockwise direction, development moves in a counterclockwise direction. We could, for the sake of clarity, consider the great experience of life as taking place upon the 3 wheels within the wheel of life, viewing it from 3 angles. Okay, now let's study this from 3 angles. Number 1, the wheel of incarnation, the cycle of ordinary evolution, the period of captivity wherein the man is bound upon the wheel, the fourfold influence of the common cross, life in the 3 worlds, the development of personality. So here we are trying to develop the incarnated soul. 2, the will adjusted or reversed, so the direction changes. The will of discipleship is called the period of emergence, wherein the man alters the revolution of the wheel. The fourfold influence of the fixed cross. So in each of the crosses, you remember we said we have 4 signs connected with it, so we have fourfold influence of that cross also. Life in the 5 worlds of superhuman evolution, the unfoldment of soul through the personality. So here higher soul is being unfolded through the personality. So here is like becoming soul realized. And 3, the will controlled or dominated, the cycle of initiation, the period of liberation from the work of the great will, The fourfold influence of the cardinal cross, which Aries is connected with, is one of the sides. Life in the seven worlds of our seven planes, fusion of spirit, soul, and personality. So here the person is trying to become God realized. Aries therefore starts the process of the most ancient initiation, which all the human family has already undergone and will undergo. The first great cosmic initiation, as far as humanity is concerned, is initiation into incarnation. Okay, so this is the beginning when from animal kingdom we are moving into human kingdom. The initiation of individualization. This process culminates eons later in the reversing of the wheel and the attaining of a definite goal in Capricorn. It culminates in the achievement of transference from off the fixed cross onto the cardinal cross, which is in its turn the logical sequence of the transference from off the mutable or common cross on the fixed cross. So we said in Aries, Aries initiates the start of incarnation, and in Cancer, we take physical form. In Capricorn, we move from fixed cross to cardinal cross. Therefore, in its lowest manifestation, Aries is the creator of those activities, conditions, and processes which lead to the manifestation of soul through the medium of form, and later of those higher creative undertakings which lead in due time to the manifestation of spirit through the soul. Okay, so all of these evolution, incarnation, everything starts or get initiated in Aries. Aries is also the purveyor to our solar system of fire, electric fire, and of the dynamic nature of God, which has in it the qualities of fostering and nourishing heat and also of the fire, which burns and destroys. So as we said, it's a fire element. From the standpoint of esoteric astrology, there are three major signs in which the three deaths are undergone. One, Aries, which at different points along the path of life forces the soul onto the burning ground and subjects it to a purifying process during incarnation. Through the lesser fire of mind, the jungles of experience are set on fire and dissolving flames, and then the path stands clear and unobstructed vision is achieved. So basically creates a burning ground for us to develop. It's like tests and trials. Through the fiery processes of war and strife, brought to the individual through the influence of the planetary ruler Mars, the god of war, a needed purification takes place. The same purification, but this time through vision, comes to the development through the activity of the subjective ruler of the planet Mercury, who is the illuminating principle which releases the mind, directs the way of man through life, and enables him to become aware of the divine plan which underlies all his fiery experience. So it means when the person is yet undeveloped, because the exoteric ruler is Mars, so there will be a lot of learning physically, lots of physical difficulties, and says like God of war, a lot of purification happen in that sense. And then when the person is developed or advanced, then because the esoteric ruler is Mercury, so it changes from Mars to Mercury, then Mercury is connected with fourth ray, is connected with also the mind. So the person starts to get illuminated, to understand the divine plan and so on. So that was the first death. Second one, Scorpio, happens in Scorpio, which brings about eventually the death of the personality, and with which we shall later deal when we come to consider that sign. Esoterically as well as exoterically, Scorpio is the sign of death and burial in the earth, of descent into the depth in order to be lifted again onto the heights. Now we will discuss this further when we reach to Scorpio, but the Scorpio is a water sign. It goes deep, deep, deep inside and understand whatever we are hiding inside, find them, take it up for us to see and to conquer and to get liberated from, something like that. So that's why I said it descends into the depth in order to be lifted again onto the heights. It is stated in some of the most ancient books that the heat of the earth, the mother, and the sting of the scorpion are the beneficent gifts which the turning of the wheel gives to the man at the beginning and the end. You see, all of these are very symbolic. So, turning of the wheel refers to changing from mutable cross to fixed cross, and sting of the Scorpio. In the fixed cross, a lot of trials and difficulties happen in all the signs. Okay, so one of them is the Scorpio that help us to die from personality and get liberated. Personality means incarnated soul, and then start to um, approach things more from the perspective of the higher soul. These gifts, when accepted and used, bring a man to liberation and eventually from the control and pain of the fixed cross. And last one, Pisces, sees the relinquishing or the death of all the influences which hold the man to the wheel of birth and his release from the control of the common or mutable cross. So it is interesting to note that each of these three signs of death is to be found in a different cross. Aries is connected with the cardinal cross, Scorpio is connected with the fixed cross, and Pisces is connected with the mutable cross. Okay, now it is the influence of these three which brings about the three needed and determined death in the life of the human being. I am here referring to the signs independently of their planetary rulers. So here is not talking about, we are not considering yet the influence of the planetary rulers. This is just talking about the sign. There is something in the energy which pours in through these signs, which predetermines or crystallizing process and the eventual destruction of some type of form control. The old commentary expresses these ideas in the following terms. The fire blazed forth, and through that fire I died to life, and so was born to death, and then again I died to form. This is connected with Aries. The heat of earth, the fiery temper of the mother, destroyed the form, released the soul, and so the lesser self was killed. Scorpio. So in Aries, we started the incarnation. In Scorpio, we die from being controlled by the personality, and then we get liberated. The waters drowned the man, the fish was made to disappear, it then appeared again only to die, or else to die and bring salvation. This is connected with Pisces. Thus, there are symbolically the death through fire, the death through earth, and the death through water, burning, suffocation, and drowning. But in this world cycle, the death through air is not either known or understood. There are not, therefore, four deaths, as the goal of our system during manifestation is initiation or release into the air, so that the bird of life out of time and space can fly free. The concept which the law of correspondence brings of the final death is covered by the word liberation, relinquishment, and final initiation, and means little to humanity. So for it concerns the planetary logos and his life cycle. So that death by air is not our concern at this stage of evolution at this point. The three deaths which do overtake man, the individual and the human family as a whole, release the soul into three great planetary centers. Number one, the death by drowning or by water in Pisces releases man again into the great center which we call humanity, and their experience is gained. Herein lies the mystery of the fish goddess of this sign, who spawn their young again and yet again. Two, the death by suffocation in Scorpio releases man into the planetary center, which we call the hierarchy. And the death by fire or burning in Aries releases man into another center to which we give the name Shambhala. Okay, so First one is connected with mutable cross. Once we die from the mutable cross, we go to the fixed cross. Once we die from the fixed cross, we go to the cardinal cross. There is much to work out, is there not, in these ideas, which I offer to you as suggestive considerations and as hints related to the science of triangle, which is the esoteric basis of astrology, just as the doctrine of the Trinity is the esoteric basis of occultism. So you see, in many occasions, three are introduced and these three are connected. We discussed that when we were discussing about chakras and now here. So all of these are connected with the science of triangles. Death is therefore of three kinds. This science of divine dying underlies the well-known phrase, the lamb slain from the foundation of the world. And when the relationship between Aries, Scorpio, and Pisces is properly understood as the linking and merging of the three crosses, a new light will be thrown upon all subsidiary sciences, esoteric and exoteric. Okay, so it is interesting here to note also that through the ruling planet Mars, the average man born in his sign, in this sign, is related to Scorpio, and thus the cardinal cross is related to the fixed cross. Okay, so through the Mars, Aries gets connected to Scorpio. So cardinal cross gets connected to fixed cross. Points of crisis can thus be noted when the horoscope is considered from this angle. At the same time, Aries is related to birth through Mercury, who rules Aries esoterically, and also Virgo, of which Mercury is the exoteric ruler. So through Mercury, Aries gets connected with Virgo because esoteric ruler of Aries, which is Mercury, is exoteric ruler of Virgo. Through Uranus, which is the hierarchical ruler of Aries, we will not really go deeper into hierarchical rulers because it gets super complicated, but we will read through. So if anyone wants to study or research on it further, you can. Through Uranus, also Aries is related to Aquarius, the sign of world service, leading to death and liberation in Pisces. Uranus is the planet through which zodiacal energy flows in connection with the creative hierarchies upon our planets from one of the stars of the Great Bear. So it is these relationships with which esoteric astrology deals, and from them the universal can be grasped and the particular understood. So I suggest you just create a note for yourself which of these are connected with each other and everything. Like here we say through Mars, Aries is connected with Scorpio. Through Mercury, Aries is connected with Virgo. Through Uranus is connected with Aries is connected with Aquarius. And later, once you have the whole picture, then you can start to understand a bit deeper their connections, what it means, and you can meditate on it or study more and get more insights about esoteric astrology. So the human being in his eventual recognized group relationships is of more importance than appears in his individual life, which the Orthodox horoscope seeks to elucidate. It only determines his literal destiny and unimportant fate. Esoteric astrology indicates his group usefulness and the scope of his potential consciousness. So the same thing that now we are discussing about individual horoscope can be also applied to the whole humanity and to also the planet. And then through that we can also understand the potential of each person in relation to the whole humanity. In connection with Aries, which expresses or is the agent primarily of the first ray of will or power, the ray of the destroyer, it should be stated that first ray energy comes from the divine prototype in the Great Bear, that it becomes transmuted into the force and activity of the planetary logos of the first ray and works out as his triple activity under guidance of the three ruling planets, Mars, Mercury, and Uranus. Okay, so Mars is the exoteric ruler or orthodox ruler, Mercury esoteric ruler, Uranus hierarchical ruler. Now we will discuss about each of them, specially these two, Mars and Mercury. So Mars embodies six-ray force, which leads to idealism, destructive fanaticism, frequently struggle, strife, war, effort, and evolution. God's idea in Aries becomes the concrete plan in Capricorn, whether that objective is the full flower of the planetary life in all its forms, the ambition of a personality working out its own ideas and ambitious worldly projects, or the spiritual aspiration of the initiate, who seeks to work out God's plans and make them his own. In every case, Mars leads to the battleground of Scorpio. Okay, we will talk about Mars shortly again. Mercury, embodying the energy of the fourth ray, eventually carries the man around the wheel of life and through the medium of conflict enables him to achieve harmony. So if you remember Mercury fourth ray, harmony through conflict. Mercury illuminates the mind and mediates between the soul and the personality, being the messenger of the gods. This mediatorship, in the first instance, produces an inevitable opposition between the pairs of opposites and a long drawn-out conflict. This conflict finally works out into victory and the dispelling of illusion through the illumination of the lower mind. Mercury and the sun are one, we are frequently told in the occult literature. So the sun is a symbol of the Son of God, who is the mediator between Father Spirit and Mother Matter. Mercury therefore leads Aries to Virgo, where the idea or word of God begins to take form, and consequently, the latent life in Aries comes to the crisis of the birth hour, prior to the birth of the Christ. Cosmically considered, though the birth of the individual Christ takes place in Capricorn at the close of the needed gestation period. Okay, so let's have a look at Mars and Mercury. Mars is the god of war. It's fearless, forward motion, it has vitality, stamina, energy, and strength, drive, sex. So this is the esoteric ruler. So means for most people who are not yet in the spiritual path, or based on the book, it says like undeveloped, Mars rules. That makes the person who is born, or the sun sign is Aries, to be a bit fearless, willful, stubborn, sometimes initiating things without thinking. Now, when the person is trying to develop in a spiritual path, the influence of Mercury increases. Now, what do you think Mercury can give to Aries? How can Mercury help? Mercury is connected with the mind, fourth ray. Aries needs to use the mind because Aries sometimes acts without thinking based on impulse immediately. So as the person starts to develop and the influence of Mercury increases, then Aries learns how to use the mind. Through Mercury can be inventive, a leader, and intelligent pioneer in any field. Because Aries through Mars starts things, can be pioneer in things, but without Mercury sometimes will be a disaster. Power without intelligence. So Mercury gives Aries intelligence, helps Aries to think, because it needs to use the mind. Mercury was known as the messenger of God, getting messages and bringing them down to earth. So that's how, as the person is developing and the influence of esoteric ruler is increasing, it helps to balance off Aries. Now, Uranus, the hierarchical ruler, embodies the energy of the seventh ray, and its work is analogous to that of Mercury. For the seventh ray is a ray which relates spirit and matter and brings together electric fire and fire by friction, thus producing manifestation. So if you remember, seventh ray is ray of ceremonial magic, ray of SOP, ray of order, like creating systems. Uranus leads the soul or organization. Like, for example, you have the first ray who has this idea of leadership, pioneers, start a project, start a business, and then you need the energy of the seventh ray to create an SOP and system for the company to continue working, something like that. Uranus leads the soul to the burning ground during the final stages of the path, when the fire of Aries and the fires um, engendered through the potency of Uranus produce the flaming heat of the final burning ground. Through this burning ground, the initiate has finally to pass. Uranus rules the occult way and is, in an esoteric sense, connected with the hierophant of the mysteries of initiation. Okay, so in this series, we try to deal more with the exoteric ruler and esoteric ruler. So therefore, we have in relation to Aries and the life of the soul, which there comes into subjective manifestation, certain related signs, wherein the soul in objective manifestation passes through peculiar and definite crisis. One, the crisis of the battlefield, leading to the culminating battle in Scorpio and the liberation into life in Capricorn, the place of the higher initiations after the reversal of the wheel. Two, the crisis of the birthplace in Virgo, brought about through the activity of Mercury, leading through Leo to the birth of the Christ in Capricorn. The self-conscious individual in Leo becomes the Christ consciousness initiate in Capricorn. So in Leo, we have the self-awareness and it becomes Christ consciousness in Capricorn. The crisis of number three, the crisis of burning ground, which is brought about through the activity of Uranus. This is entered through the free choice of the initiate who makes his choice in Libra, the point of balance, where usually the moment for the reversal of the wheel takes place. There, the man has to decide whether to proceed as usual and according to custom or reversing the wheel to pass through the burning ground of true liberation. Libra is the polar opposite to Aries and therefore closely related. So the choice of moving from mutable cross to fixed cross, it says usually happens in Libra, where we choose to continue as others, commonly in the common cross, or to choose the path of difficulty, hardship, but liberation, and move to fixed cross. So you will note that the rays which are related to or expressing themselves through Aries are curiously balanced. Ray 1 and 7 are the highest and the lowest, and therefore demand a point of balance upon the wheel which is provided in Libra. So ray 1 and 7 is the first and the last, and therefore it needs a balance provided in Libra. Rays 6 and 4 bring to this balancing process the energy of the second ray, the major building ray, which enables the man to build anew and provide himself with a spiritual body of manifestation. I would also call your attention to the fact that through Uranus, Aries is related to Aquarius. The vague beginnings in Aries in faint emergence of the latent embodied ideas have, after the turning of the wheel in two directions, brought release in Capricorn and produced the world server in Aquarius, who voluntarily stays upon the great wheel, using the cardinal cross as his conditioning sign, and thus staying within the sphere of influence in order to help humanity to find liberation from the fixed cross. So it means in Aquarius, the person decides to stay in cardinal cross and this time help the humanity move further. In the sweep of the zodiac, there are 4 signs which are signs of birth. So we discussed already the 3 signs which were connected with death, Now there are 4 signs that are connected with birth. 1, Aries, the birthplace of divine ideas, whether these ideas are souls brought into incarnation and controlled by Mars until they reach the point of reorientation and become sensitive to the influence of Mercury, or whether they are the birth of the ideas of God in the form of the hierarchical plans to which the initiate becomes sensitive. So it's anyway birthplace of divine ideas, including the idea to incarnate. Cancer, the birthplace into the life of form, the door into physical incarnation. This is the sign in which humanity as a whole integrated unit is born. The scene of the emergence of the fourth kingdom in nature. Humanity has emerged from rock and water and brings its habitation with it, and mass instinctual consciousness comes into being. So in Cancer, as we discussed, is the birth to human form, to form. Leo, the birthplace of the individual, the coming into form of individual self-conscious man, who emerges out of the mass, and herd in Cancer, substituting of instinctual consciousness, self-awareness, and a sense of responsibility of an individual kind. So the instinctual consciousness developed in Cancer becomes individual self-consciousness in Leo. When we understand we start to recognize ourselves as an individual. And number 4, Capricorn, the birthplace of the Christ, the place of the second birth, and the scene for the emergence of the fifth kingdom in nature when the right time comes. In this sign, the initiate comes into a spiritual awareness which demonstrates later in Aquarius and in Pisces as man, the world worker, and man, the world savior, both of them with a universal mission. It is from hints such as these that the astrologer of the future will determine the type of horoscope which should be cast. 2 questions will then arise. So the 2 questions is, first we need to understand if the person we are reading the chart for is bound to the law of karma, is connected with personality, is still in the mutable cross, or is a developed person, disciple. So the question 1 is the subject, the personality, progressing around and around the wheel, perfecting self-consciousness and developing a rounded out personality through experience and the working of law of karma, subject to the great illusion and arriving eventually at the height of personality ambition in Capricorn, or is the person beginning to manifest as a soul, pouring light through dense fogs of illusion and preparing for the major test in Scorpio, to be followed by initiation in Capricorn. So I think it's better for us to finish here today because it's before Vesak and a lot of preparations are happening. So there will be one session in about 30 minutes by Master Hector and Master Nona. So let's have this half an hour break so we can prepare for the session. And next session, we will complete RES. We are almost done with it. And then we will study 2 more signs after. Thank you so much. Hope you enjoyed the session. And we will put the recording in the group soon. And see you in the next session next week. Thank you. Let's finish with a short invocation. Please be aware of your heart and your crown. Mentally say to the Supreme Being, Divine Father, Divine Mother, and all the great, great ones, thank you for all of your priceless blessings, for divine light, divine love, and divine power, divine guidance, help, and protection. Thank you for illumination and divine oneness. With thanks and in full faith. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. Exhale slowly and be aware of your whole body. Inhale slowly. Exhale slowly. Inhale slowly, inhale all the blessings. And when you are comfortable, gently open your eyes with a big, big smile. Thank you so much, everyone. See you next week. Bye.